the truth of the matter is, Ita and I have to tell you right now that we broke the internet. And I think it's a story we're going with. We'd like you to all share that one, and we'll take it from there. Here we are together, Wednesdays, a little afternoon now. But this is our time to connect, to be inspired, to learn together, ultimately lift our spirits. That's why we say refresh, and it's where we're all at these days and what Generation W is all about. I talked a little bit, as you may recall, for those of us who were with us last week, we talked to Dr. Orender Johnson from the United States Naval War College, and she left us with lots of great little nuggets. When she was done, I said she had a gold mine. Perhaps she's ready to invest now, Ita.
I mean, she was amazing. I love her, yes.
I know. We got to spend that time at Duke together with her, right?
That was an incredible experience, yes.
So she said, in reality, leadership is a team sport. That stays with me for a lot of reasons, but especially today with this time with Ita Ekpoudom, because Ita is one of those amazing people, of women, of being a team leader, right? She's always at the head of the line. She's supporting, she's cheering, she's advising, she's connecting. For those of you, when you get to really know her well, she's singing and dancing. But currently, she's a partner at Gingerbread Capital, which is an amazing firm, and she's going to tell us more about that. And I love the mission, Ita. I think we all can rally behind the mission with you, which is to engage, educate, and elevate the next generation of successful women business leaders and investors. Lots and lots of other experience you have, for sure, but I find that we're going to jump right in. We have a lot to cover. It is an interesting time. A frightening time. Lisa didn't want me to use the word daunting time, but for many it's daunting, but it's also opportunistic. You have a bird's eye view of the world of business and the work that you do. We'd love to know, what are you seeing?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a crazy time. I'm sitting with you here today. Thank you for having me. It's literally day 60 of the last time that I stepped out of my building. I am in Manhattan in New York City, and I have not left my building in 60 days. I took Governor Cuomo at his word, and I'm being a barrier, not a carrier. So my experience of life right now is from within the confines of my apartment, which I know is very different from, say, your experience down in Florida, where, you know, people are able to be out and about and business is still kind of ongoing. So I think it's kind of unprecedented that this is happening all at once, but we're all experiencing it very differently. And from the standpoint of what I'm seeing in business, and to back up, at Gingerbread Capital, we are a venture capital firm, and we back high growth female founded companies. So we're looking for companies where at least one of the founders, co-founders is a woman. And I think, you know, the data is starting to show that in this time, women businesses, which even before COVID were very hard hit, are being hit very hard in a post-COVID world. And part of it is lack of capital. Part of it is an entire disruption to the economy as a whole. But then how do you survive and thrive through that? You do need money, you need business to keep going. So it's an interesting time where we're seeing within our own portfolio, we're seeing some companies that are actually doing well during this time, but then we're also seeing companies that are having challenging moments. So I think that's what we're seeing across the board when we think about business today. What does it mean to be in business today versus even 3 months ago? It's a very different thing.
True, but I think I'm going to start on the uplifting side. I think all of us are motivated and inspired by those who are doing well, because it says if these people can do it, we can do well. So where are the sectors or the companies or success stories that you're seeing, and some of them may be unexpected, that would be of interest?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, yesterday, Linnea Roberts, who's the founder of Gingerbread Capital, we are doing a campaign, which we'll talk about, with a platform called I Fund Women. And she and Karen Khan, the founder, were having a conversation about how when you think about the companies that are thriving right now, both of them, and I'm an psychology major, was my major in college, are looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if people are familiar with that hierarchy. And when you think about the companies that are thriving right now, it's the companies that are meeting the basic needs, the bottom of the pyramid, which is kind of, in Maslow's terminology, physiological needs and safety needs. So think about it: food, shelter, safety, like housing. Those are the kinds of things that we're seeing that are kind of being seen resilient at this point right now. So yeah, it's back to the basics. It's back to the simple things that are working right now.
Okay, so any specifics, any specific companies that you might want to call out?
It's interesting. I mean, things within our portfolio that we find that are doing well. One of them is Primary. Some who might have kids might know that. They make pajamas and other kind of under clothing for young children. Think about it. Kids are at home right now. We're not exactly dressing up in all of these crazy things. They have seen a really strong Q1. And so you think about that kind of thing of just like being able to keep clothing on you, thinking about the kinds of needs where it comes to food companies, or I think about our mutual friend,
Yes.
Jessie Gould, who I've known across multiple aspects of my personal and professional life. We started out as analysts at Goldman together and overlapped the business school together, but she ultimately went on and started a business called Oxford, which delivers food and was a corporate catering business. It literally vanished overnight. The business dried up when we all went into shelter in place. She's based here in New York. And one of the things that we're loving, that we're seeing right now amongst all kinds of businesses, is grit, resilience, and the ability to innovate on the fly. She rebuilt her business, taught herself to code, rebuilt her website, and pivoted to a direct-to-consumer business model of delivering groceries, fresh produce, and all of that to individuals versus to large companies. So it's that kind of like non-defeatist attitude and ingenuity that we're seeing in the midst of all of this uncertainty and chaos right now. So I love hearing stories like that. And those are the kinds of companies we're focused on helping right now.
That's awesome. I wanted to call it Oxford again because every time I look at her stuff, I want to ship it places or deliver. And her delivery is obviously in the New York area. She does some stuff to New Jersey, to Connecticut, but we love what Jessie's doing and how she's done it.
And she's kept me very well fed. I made butternut squash soup from scratch. In what world does anybody know me would be like, I made that from scratch from like fresh produce? I did.
Well, I think we were rather amazed by that, actually, but and you didn't share. We need that shipping component now. Although now that Uber, I don't know if you could put the soup in an Uber and Grubhub it to Florida. Not working.
I mean, maybe by the time they're done, if that acquisition happens, they'll buy FedEx next and overnight it to you. It'll be fine.
There we go. We have a lot of people that are interested in what does it take to succeed in business. So you get to see a lot of women at a lot of different stages of their entrepreneurial careers. At this stage, you think there's something that you could identify that says, here are some really important qualities.
Yeah, I think in a time like this, you see that fundamental even more so. I say the word grit, the word resilience. When the bottom falls out, do you just close up shop and say, I'm done, I can't do this? Or do you just be like, I have to figure out another way? And it's really interesting watching those that are saying, I'm not going to give up. I didn't have a ton of money in this before, and I could figure it out when I had no money in this, and I'm going to try to keep going when things are kind of up against the wall. And some of the most innovative companies, like, there's been reporting, when we looked at the 2008, 2009 crisis, some of the most innovative companies came out of that crisis. And I strongly believe that the next generation and the next wave of companies that are going to be the ones that are coming out of this crisis. And because of the nature of this crisis, and it's so impacting on, it's like life and death situations that we're facing with, right. I think the innovations are going to be truly game changing in a way that even that last cycle wasn't.
Right. The more I hear it, and I fully embrace this, Ita, that this whole thing is giving us permission to say, why not, right? To think in different ways, to innovate. Like, why don't you do it this way? Well, it used to be, well, you can't do it. Well, why not? Why not try to do it something different? There's so many conversations now that people are saying, we never could have taken this path. Or they say, I always wanted this path, but didn't feel like I was able to, but now I can. If we look at the world that way, it opens up.
Absolutely. And I think there's been a fundamental shock to the system. And I don't think there has never been a time where all at once, all across the world, everybody's feeling the same shock at the same time. It's rippling in different waves, but it's a universal shock to our global economy. And so when people think about this, it's going to be, right now, it's really about, are you making things that people need and hence will buy? So I think when you think about your business right now and starting a business, because people will start businesses in a time like this, when you're thinking about starting or growing the one you have, look at the ultimate product. Are you making a product, a service that in a time like this, somebody feels like it's not a nice to have, but it's a need to have? And it's a need to have because you're making their life better or easier to manage in some way. And if you get through to that, these days from an investor perspective, it's less about investing on the potential of something, but it's going to be looking in the near term on, is there results and what are those results looking like? If you're like, oh, in about 18 months or what, we will see this, you're going to have a hard time raising on that promise of the future. People really are wanting to see results now. And I think many times women create businesses which from the beginning makes sense from a unit economics of like, I make it for this amount and I sell it for this amount. And it's kind of makes sense from the outset. And historically in the venture capital world, that hasn't necessarily been prioritized or seen as, it's like something we can get to later. But now, I mean, the threshold that people are looking at, investors are looking at is, did you survive through this? Not people are not looking to see that you like 10x'd and multiplied. People are wanting to see the companies that are being innovative, surviving, and then incrementally growing so that if on the outset, on the other side, that they can come out even stronger. But nobody's expecting that you're going to be, Zoom in this kind of like moment. You need to be a company that is steady, that has strong fundamentals, and that has a path to maintaining the customers that you already have, and then building upon that in a steady and strong way.
So it sounds like you answered this question that somebody just sent over. I have it right here. It says, what advice for entrepreneurs who are not serving in that basic needs category right now? What would you tell them? I'm sure they've got a lot of time, energy, money, and resources dedicated.
Well, that's true. And I would challenge you and ask, is there a way that what you're doing can be seen as an essential, like as a need to have, unless it's when you look at it, you're like, this is truly frivolous. If I was down to like my last, $100, I would never, in the list of things I would buy, this is literally not on that list, then maybe think, can I pivot to incorporate something that could be? But if you look into your heart of hearts and say, if I was down to, disposable income was not at the way it was before, would I buy my own product or service? And if your answer to that is no, certainly don't go raise money against it. And first, try to see, can you add an element of something that is needed? I would say, go look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and look at the base of that pyramid and say, does my business, can it incorporate something about that in this moment?
Interesting. Interesting, because we're talking about products, but there's so much about services, and we now have to rethink about how services are delivered. I know we have a great entrepreneur who's a caterer who's listening to us right now, and she's got amazing recipes. And it used to be she'd show up with her family and serve and deliver, and maybe that will happen again, but maybe not that soon.
Yeah, it's really interesting. A friend of mine from business school who has, a guy friend of mine who has a company called Hella Bitters, and they make bitters. One of the things that he's done, because the bar and services in the restaurant industry has been so, shut down, he started an Instagram channel where he's having bartenders from local restaurants across the country come on, make their favorite drinks, give the kind of backstory behind you, and do like cooking shows have done for decades, but doing it around like drinks and cocktails. And so first, it's not only expanding the reach of taking a local bartender and giving them a national audience, but it's creating a whole new medium to discuss something that there is interest from people, and there are people that have stuff at home that don't know what to do with it. So it's thinking of a new way to take something and bring it to a larger audience, leveraging technology. So I thought that was a creative way. And whoever he featured, he would pay that person, give them like a shift, and then open up to the audience to tip the person via Venmo, which I thought, again, was really an interesting and creative approach of trying to get a point across while still sharing what makes that industry special.
Right. Holly Mitchell just wants us to know she's obsessed with hella bitters.
I will tell Jamari.
Okay. All right. So listen, hey, Gabby Perez, she's an amazing entrepreneur from Boston, works on 2 women focused companies up there, and she's loving this. So thanks, Gab. Hey, you opened this up, and someone actually jumped on it, which says, okay, Ita, how are you staying sane on day 60 in quarantine, or whatever we're calling it? Some days I think it's hostage, but okay.
My best friend, who I think she is on this, she is like, everybody knows that I am a big extrovert, but she's like, people don't know. You are really an introvert. You are a secret introvert. It's different for everybody. I truly have found, and I know I am lucky. I don't have like lots of small children around. So for me, it can be doing my work. My favorite workouts are online and are doing streaming sessions. I've cooked, and I've had things like this, right? I've been able to talk to you. I've been able to talk to other people. I think if we were living in like the 90s or even the early 2000s, before the kind of technology that we have today, it would be really challenging. But you can be alone and not alone at the same time. And I'm really about these droplets. Like, there's droplets in the air. So we need to be not adding unnecessary burden to a city like mine, where there has been like 25, 30,000 people die. Why do I need to be adding to the problem? I think that if I'm able to, I need to remove myself from being a part of the problem and let other people who really need the assistance and who really need to be out there doing things. And so, I'm lucky that delivery, I live in Manhattan, and literally everything has been able to be delivered to my door. And what I do is I tip the people that are taking the risk out there. I tip them very well to thank them for continuing to put their lives in danger and try to put resources on their table by giving really good tips when the people that send deliveries to me.
Right. It's interesting. We talk very much about the difference in our lives right now. And it's funny, I was talking to my husband, MG, this morning, and we were talking about the pandemic, the Spanish flu. And, I want to read books about it. I want to know how people came through it. I wanted to know what's their cooperative efforts. I'm disturbed that there is now this, are you a mask wearer or a not mask wearer? Are you putting us at risk, or are you taking away my rights? Not a conversation we've had as part of this, but knowing that you are, as you said, a barrier, not a carrier, it is a very intentional way to live your life in support of the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a moment where it's trying to be empathize and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, because it's very easy for us to feel like our existence and the way we're experiencing life is the way everybody else is experiencing life. Lisa Shallot sent us that great article about empathy and how, the point where you can walk by somebody and you'll be like a footnote in somebody else's life, but like you will never see them again. But like, imagine how different their experience can be. So just because you might be in a position where everything's fine doesn't mean that, and I think one of the things about this time is we don't know if we are a threat or not, because we can be asymptomatic. And so if you can, why would you not take a moment to try and do something that eliminates the burden on others, as well as, protects you, but like thinking about it in that way. But I understand that it's that's if you have the option. There are people that do not have the option. And for those that are out there, protect them. Those people that must be out there, that don't have a choice to be out there because they're the doctors, they're the delivery people, like protect them. So I think that's how we get our economy back. But it's also, you know, when we think at Gingerbread about how we can make a difference right now we're not making very active investments on a venture side. But one of the things that we are doing, and one of the things that, you know, I was really excited to join with you guys on, is that we are partnering with a platform called I Fund Women, and they do crowdfunding for female-founded businesses. And what we're doing right now, and it's ongoing, it's live right now, and it'll be, the applications are being taken till May 20th, is that we've decided to try to do something for kind of Main Street businesses, not the businesses that would be coming to us for venture capital type funding, but the, you know, think your favorite yoga studio, your favorite, the kinds of businesses in your community that you loved frequenting that may have been deeply impacted by this. And we are going to select from some of the most hardest hit states, and Florida is one of those that's in our list, 25 companies that we are going to give $10,000 grants. So that means non-dilutive capital. We will not be taking an equity stake. It is money directly to the businesses for them to be able to put into their businesses to keep them going. As I said, right now it's about surviving so that you get to the other side so that you can thrive again. And when the data shows, and when people are looking for PPP and all of that, a lot of businesses in this country are looking for $10,000 to $20,000, not hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And so that's who we're trying to look at right now with this campaign.
This is so amazing when you shared this with us. Not only, yes, Sanyan's on the line, it's not only very generous, it's forward thinking, but it's also, I love that it's women supporting women in a very visible way, right? It says, okay, listen, we're in this position. How do we optimize the position we're in? And I have to tell you, Ita, we talked about this at Generation W, all of us get together. This is what we do. This is what we're good at. How do we take that and put it to the greatest and highest use for other people? And so I'm hoping by seeing this, and we'll show it again before we leave, we can put it maybe in the chat and let everyone know, please share this with people. Let them know, one, what a great fellow citizen that Gingerbread Capital is, right? In terms of the servant leadership you're providing and the opportunity for women like we, there's just somebody who's gonna get this and it's gonna change their world, which will change our world. And I'm so excited by that, like just to be next to that. So you and Linnea and all of your team, it's an amazing, amazing thing. I sent it out to a whole group before this, and I'm glad you're here to talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, the need is there. The day we sent it, I think we launched it either last Thursday or last Friday. Within the 24-hour period, we got 145 submissions in 24 hours. And so, when we think, is the need there? The need is there. And the need is Linnea always says you have to start somewhere. You have to just act. And we're trying to do something that makes some kind of progress forward in a meaningful way in a real communities. Because sometimes this can all seem very esoteric and you're like, where is it? And so we're hoping when we actually get to hear and review some of these, and we put in one of the things that I wanted is like, ask your favorite customer to give a testimonial about why your business is important to them. And those are the kinds of things to say that these are real people. These aren't just numbers in a thing. These are real businesses. I'm Nigerian and I love African proverbs. And one of my favorite proverbs is, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And I do believe it's the exact same way when it comes to investing. And the way that, the types of businesses that women build, especially at that kind of Main Street mom and pop level, they might be only employing 5, 10 employees, but that is making a real difference in that community in which they reside. And so that's kind of where there's far more of those businesses in the world than there are of like the Facebooks in the world.
Correct. And if you look at the numbers nationally in terms of employment, right? It is the small businesses that employ the majority of employees, as opposed to the big. Now, corporations have huge impact, And so you're right. And I love the idea of being at the community level because that's where we live, right? We live in the community. And I also think what's interesting about your process is it's not, so many times when you apply for a grant, it is difficult for small businesses to get through the process. And I think you've looked at that process and made it as approachable as possible so that if people need it, right? You don't have the grant writer, right? You don't have that on your staff generally as companies. So I think that's really important.
Well, we give that as a credit to iFund Women and what they've built on their platform. And that's kind of why we looked to partner with somebody that was already in the space versus trying to administer it ourselves.
Right.
You know, they have, when you go to the application, there's a playbook that you can download it and look through the steps and fill it out ahead of time so that you're not thinking on the fly and you can really think about it and then submit it. And I think that's just a really thoughtful way to let you be able to really craft the overall story and understand. And you know, when you look at the different tabs, they talk about the different levels of capital raising, you know, friends and family. And then you go up to like government loans, commercial loans, venture capital. And we were kind of very clear that we didn't want people that had gone to like the level of looking at the kind of capital we look at and above. That's not who we're looking for in this campaign. We're looking for the people below that bootstrap their businesses, that, you know, that don't have a team of necessarily lawyers or advisors or investors that are out there scavenging, like, what's the latest regulations, but they had put, you know, their life savings or whatever into a business that was thriving. And one of the things that we also did is like, we needed these businesses to have existed before this. So we asked that these businesses are criteria, at least 2 years in operations, at least holding 5 employees or more, and generating at least 250,000 or more in revenue, because we're not necessarily looking for somebody that just launched a business that's looking to get up and running, but somebody who had a business going, it was going well, things like COVID hit, and then now they're trying to keep those people that depend on them and the communities that depend on them, keep it alive to see the other side.
Right. So it's real community investment in a sense through that thing. There's a couple of great questions here. Gabriela Perez, she's curious about your thought with your VC lens. Are women better leaders in a pandemic?
Well, I mean, we have been our whole portfolio is full of women. So we can really see that up close and personal. And we have been very impressed with the way, the decisiveness in which they took the action, the way that they've done everything to kind of really think about how to do the best interests of their employees while thinking about the business, even when it's meant to doing difficult cuts or furloughs. But they've tried to be transparent in that, and they've tried to not, you know, people weren't necessarily blindsided, but get the buy-in and also set a path where if we can get to the other side, there's a path back for bringing in some of the employees. So I do think that we have been, you know, particularly impressed when we have our update conversations with our portfolio companies, the candor with which they are talking to us about what they're doing, and you can feel the weight of it, and that how seriously that they're taking this and the means that they're going to try to keep things going for the people that they employ. So I do think so. There's a level of empathy, a level of thinking not just about the bottom line, but about, you know, these are real people. We are in a real moment that has made us proud to be associated with the companies in our portfolio.
And I think many of us have also seen the articles when you take a step back and have seen, you know, the leaders of countries like New Zealand and Taiwan and others, Angela Merkel at her best. I never knew she was a scientist before she was a politician, but her ability—
There's another reason to like that woman.
Right?
But there's a sense of, what people are looking for right now is a sense of, you know, I think why people tune into Chroma and all that, a sense of competence and calm when everything seems so out of your control. There's so many things right now that is out of our control, and we gravitate towards and we hang on to those people that will give us transparency, that will just kind of let us know what's what right now, knowing that it can change, and we really don't know what's going on. And one of the things when I talk to people about, are we looking at new companies? And I'm like, you know, candidly, the likelihood of us making a new investment right now is very small. And that's because we as investors you don't know where the bottom is. We don't know where the bottom is. And we're all trying to get our hands around this together. And if I were to say to you, oh yeah, for sure, but then drag you on for like 2 months, that doesn't help you. But if I were to say, you know, the likelihood that you know, we write a check to you in the next 1 to 2 months is very unlikely. If you are needing that right now, you probably don't want to continue speaking with me. You probably want to go on to somebody else, because there's nothing worse than in a moment like this, giving even more uncertainty, especially when it comes to money.
No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. I have another good question for you. And let me just say this about this idea of calm. When you were talking about the proactive way to live our lives in the interests of all of us being healthier, that wasn't exactly your words. You filled me up. And I'm like, that's what we want to hear, right? We all want to hear that, and we are not hearing that. So sharing that is really powerful, Ita, in the way that
I think that, again, it's the word, you know, there's 2 words that I know that when they do these bubble maps of what was the word of the year in 2020, number 1 is going to be unprecedented. Like, there's no other way to say what's happening right now than unprecedented. But then I think the other one, it's just like, people are want to be hopeful. People want to feel a sense of, again, Maslow, security. So what can you do, whether it's in your the business that you create, the product or service that you're doing, what can you do to help bring that sense of security, calm, safety, basics? No, if people feel like their basics can be okay, then they can start hoping and thinking about the upward trajectory of the future.
Right. And I just want to let everyone know that Lisa Shallett, and when we put this back out on Facebook Live, actually left us the link for that article about empathy. And that one paragraph, I have to print it up and put it. It's just absolutely.
It was beautiful. And it's just so simple and so profound. Yeah.
All right. Melinda has a question which says, how did you figure out a way to do work? And I know that this was a process for you that you love and that's consistent with your values.
Well, I mean, it was a journey. I think that many people will probably resonate with the feeling of just because you are good at something doesn't necessarily mean that it's the thing that you love doing and that you'll be on the path of. So, you know, I think in a world where I had been the child my parents wanted, you would be speaking to Ita Ekpoudom, MD. I would have been a doctor because every Nigerian family wants that doctor, and I went into college pre-med. But like, I quickly realized that that was just not the path for me. And so I went into, and I ultimately was a major in psychology and social psychology, because people and the interactions with people have always fascinated me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I always say, what does a person with a degree in social psychology who did her senior thesis on interpersonal rejection do? You go to Wall Street and like sitting in a trading floor and sitting in all of those where you really can see those dynamics at play in all the best ways and all the worst ways. I really loved that experience. But business is, all businesses, and even especially when you think about the venture world, it is about relationships. When you think about how people get access to the people that have the capital, who get access to those meetings that gets your foot in the door, very rarely does a cold email get you an introduction. It is literally like somebody knows somebody who sent an email and that person took a meeting. And so the whole core of business is driven on interpersonal relationships. So I think in my professional journey, I went through a path of I was good at but didn't love, and then triangulated to the thing where I truly feel, and I think the people that know me think that the job that I do today really aligns what I love to do professionally with the kind of person that I am in my personal life. And I always say that my superpower is connecting dots. And I love to like connect people and ideas to each other. And I do that in my friend group and in my personal life. And that is really at the heart of what it takes to help businesses get to the next level. They need money first and foremost, but after that, they need the ability to get that warm introduction that gets them in front of an executive that's a potential customer that will take the meeting that they wouldn't have taken otherwise if it wasn't coming from a particular person. So that's one of the things when we think about Gingerbread Capital, where a value add that we bring in. We might not always be the largest check in around for our female founders, but we find that we consistently get female founders coming to us, first of all, because I think our respective networks are very strong. I mean, Linnea's is much better than mine, but we are very good at being able to connect dots. But then I also think that level of, I don't know, empathy of like, they feel comfortable calling us and sharing it with us, the real of it. And then saying, okay, how do we work together? How can you help me get to the other side?
The real.
The real.
I have to say the two of you are incredibly powerful together. I'm just looking at, great job, Ita.
And Donna.
Oh, you saw that. I was going to leave me out. And Sonia says, you're fantastic. Amy Zintel, I love Amy. She loves your talk about barrier and carrier. The health of our economy will depend on our prioritizing community over self. Which, yes, we're all in. I think that's what women do exceptionally well. We're kind of like brought up to do that, right? In terms of whatever. I do have another question for you though here. Being in your 4 walls, or how many walls you have in your address in that beautiful apartment downtown, what have you, I want to get this right. What have you learned that you can do, enabled you to do things you did before in new ways?
There's so many things. Like, I mean, literally, as you know, today is my 60-day anniversary.
Everybody, I love the day when.
This is what 60 days inside looks like.
I love the day when Ita said, okay, it's day 40, I've done Noah. I love that. It's like,
you know, so
oh my God, here we are, Noah and a half.
It's really, there's just so many things, but again, I do think it's because we live at the time in which we live, with the ability to technology and all of those type of things. I mean, I'll give a prime simple example, thinking about exercise, importance of trying to stay, you know, in shape, stay relatively. I had an instructor at a fitness thing that I liked that was here that moved to Richmond. And
right.
She moved to Richmond and in January. And so my favorite instructor left. Now, because of the power of these classes, I now can take 3 classes a week with my favorite instructor from Richmond in her home with me and others. So it's like, it's amazing where I couldn't have done that before. And I was sad about it, but now I'm still getting the benefits of the 2 things that I enjoy with the person that I think motivates me well and hits that dynamic. So I think that's amazing. I've talked to, it's funny, my family is, I have family in Nigeria. They're more concerned about me. They're like, oh my God, we turned on the TV. And everybody's always thinking, oh, the emerging. They're like, are you okay? We saw the news. Like, what's going on? So it's like the Africans are the one calling me being like, are you okay? Don't go outside.
Listen, with all due respect, we're calling you and asking you the same question because I will say, I give myself a limited amount of news now. I mean, I read the papers, all of it, but I will tell you the news, you know, the flashing, the music, the positioning of the headlines. It's like the world is coming to an end. Listen, things could be better, but there's only so much my system could take. And it's not even all that I'm hearing. And so then I think about you and friends like you, and you're like, oh my God, are you okay?
Yes. I'm like, it's a beautiful day in New York right now. I'm just not out in it, but I have a window. I have, you know,
well, then here's a great question from Akila, because we have to have one from Ita's really great friend, all of our good friends, but she says, I love this.
Oh, goodness.
What people are watching these days to help keep you informed about what will be the next technology or innovation in a post-COVID world?
Well, it's interesting. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters and things like that. So I subscribe to Jessica Lesson's The Information. I think that's a really great one. I subscribe to Business Insider. I think that one has some good insights on there. And then I also, it's interesting. I'm on this kind of, there's a group of people in the venture community that came together around COVID. They're sharing information globally. And I read that thread, and they're prolific posters. So there's just lots of really kind of interesting insights about both from a US centric, but then also a global centric perspective. So that's been a really fascinating one to just kind of be able to be a fly on the wall that is mostly people in the venture community.
Right. I don't know. I always feel like you're reading a lot more than that too. But
I mean, I read all kinds of stuff. I mean, Wall Street Journal, yes, I also have the luxury of time and lack of distractions to be able to read a bunch of stuff. So yes, I do.
Lack of distractions. Okay, I do think that there was a question here from Ruth. I'm just sliding through here. It feels a little awkward. I want to be looking at you, but you know that I'm looking through this chat on the side here. Ruth wanted to know whether, let's see, Ruth. Oh, she was wanting to know if you were staying sane inside for so long.
I know, everybody, Linnea, the great one, beginning of this week, I text from her being like, there's something coming in 30 minutes. I was like, what? And she had Levain cookies delivered to me. And she's like, this time I'm delivering it to your door. Next week, I'm going to deliver it a block down and make you go pick it up a block away. And I was like, you realize if I'm 60 days in, I might just not go. So the willpower is there, but I will emerge. New York Pause is about to come to an end, and we're about to enter the next phase. But, I'll do it smartly. Again, if we all rush back out there, we might just defeat the purpose. And, Anthony Fauci is just, talking. So we just always have to try to do our part to not add to a problem. And everybody knows New York is the epicenter. And, I'm just trying, you're one person. What can I as one person do? I'm doing what I as one person can do.
Well, today you as one person refreshed our lives, gave us incredible energy, spoke to about connection, and also gave us an opportunity that we can share with our friends, if it's not us, about applying for a grant that can help enrich not only our business, but our community that depends on that business. Matter of fact,
and I think, ask your favorite, be that person that gives a testimonial for your favorite business that you think could use this, because I think those are the things there'll be lots of submissions, as we've already seen, but what will, kind of cut one to the other is going to be the person being able to, the humble brag that you have a difficult time doing when you talk about yourself. And when many women talk about themselves, we always find it easier, and I know I do, to cheer on and be the cheerleader of somebody else that I care about. So do that for a business owner, a female business owner that you care about. Give that resounding kind of testimonial that will cut above the fray as to why they are important to you and your community. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's some who are tuned in, who will then be tuned in. Of course, I'm a big fan of Amelia Toffees, who's a woman who started this business from nothing, and I don't know how she's doing now, but I try to support her by sending all of my friends toffees to their door, so they don't have
delicious.
To their house.
So delicious.
Right? Okay, so Ita, Sherry, did you want to just put that up one more time? Someone can screen grab it if they see it. I just want to make sure they get it. Yeah, the gingerbread application deadline. Where do we, based on this though, you just got to go to iFundWomen. Is it .org or
.com/grants, I think, and then it'll be there. But I can send you the link directly to the application as well to share.
Great. And I would say one more follow-up. It's interesting. I wrote this note when you gave us all those things that you were reading, and Akila pointed it out, like the Business Insider, Jessica Lesson. Some of these are rather expensive newsletters, my friend. We might want to think of some things that are more readily and more economically available for our friends who would look.
Yeah, there are some that are free. I'm getting somebody's delivering something to me, and
it's us. We're all down by your door. I'm just a holiday.
I'm like, who is sending me something right now? I'm going to ignore it, and I will get back to them. But, I mean, hang on a second. I will come back to that. But yeah, so there are other ones that are, if you're looking at the venture, that have kind of free high level. So PitchBook and Crunchbase, they send high level ones, but a lot of these things eventually you do have to pay for. And so I would also say that there's great podcasts. So podcasts are a way to get the free ones that you can listen to. This must be important. Can you hold on a second? I've never had somebody ring this long for me.
Go ahead.
But yeah, but can you keep talking while I do that?
I'm gonna thank you, and you go do your thing. All right, everybody. There's Ita going. Maybe she's gonna step outside, and we'll be witness to this. Next week, we have yet another great thinker, doer, the world's #1 executive coach, and believe me, we can all use an executive coach. Not only that, she is the founding and executive director of the Coach K Leadership Center, which many of us have spent time with. It's an extraordinary experience. She's a thought leader who will be sharing many of her thoughts next week. Her name is Sanyan Shang, and I think she joined us a little bit today, Ita. She said you were amazing. So we look forward to spending time next week with Sanyan. Bonus, we have a new engagement coming up. There was such great questions and engagement with Leah Jewell about work and learning that we scheduled a Zoom for a small group to interact with her much more personally. That will be on May 18th at noon. You can register at info@genwnow.com. So May 18th at noon for Leah Jewell on work and learning, the future of work and continued learning. And with that, Ita, I am going to say from the bottom of my heart to the very
Thank you.
Thank you. And whatever's down there, I hope it's something that's filled with love.
I mean, I hope it was super important enough to break me away from this, because I much rather, as you know, talk to you.
Right, and we will definitely have a full release on the delivery at Ita Ekpoudom's house. Thank you, everybody.
And Sanyan, I can't wait. I'll be on next week. I look forward to listening to Sanyan, because that's going to be amazing. So I'll be tuning in as an attendee next week.
Awesome. It's great, right? We all have to refresh each other, right? Lift our spirits. On behalf of Gingerbread Capital, thank you, everyone. Ciao.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.